They're not very big, but they could offer a drastically new dimension to agricultural production. Unmanned aerial vehicles could give farmers and ranchers a unique view of their fields, livestock, or operations, and on a regular basis. The problem is, as you'll hear, Federal Aviation Administration rules regulating their use are not ideal for use in ag. UNL researchers both on East Campus and at the Nimbus Lab on City Campus, Nimbus standing for Nebraska Intelligent Mobile Unmanned Systems, are working to learn more about UAVs and what they can do. At the Power Farming Show last month, we talked with Nebraska Extension soils educator Krienke about the increasing popularity of these new pieces of machinery.
UAVs, they've been around, but there's just been a lot of interest building lately. Because there are so many different companies, there's so many different platforms being developed, and it's becoming more of a novelty at some point because they're cost effective, they're relatively inexpensive, they're stable, and they're a lot of fun. And so I think it takes that fun side and starts to make it into how can we start using this to be more productive in agriculture. And it's not a far stretch when we start looking at what we can actually do with these things.
Now, if you follow drones or unmanned aerial vehicles in their use, you know that the FAA has spent a long time looking at their use. Tell me where the regulations and laws stand right now.
Well, where they stand are basically absent of how to do this commercially, so to speak. The way we interpret the rules, or lack of, is that you can only do this as a hobby. So basically for fun. You can't fly higher than 400 feet. It's got to be within your visual range, and you have to be, I believe it's 5 miles from an airport. And that's how we interpret it. We're playing it safe. Technically speaking, you're not supposed to be selling this product, the use of it to make money.
So in the instance that eventually these would be widespread or available widespread, tell me what they could do in agriculture.
Well, whenever the regulations get hammered out, and we're kind of waiting, I think September 30th of next year is kind of that final deadline of when this is supposed to come out, we can do all sorts of things. If we were going to talk about the lowest hanging fruit, we could talk about just getting that different perspective. If you imagine yourself scouting your fields and what you can see when the corn's above your head or soybeans, you can only see so much. But the second you get above and now you start seeing that big picture start to come together, things start making a lot more sense. We can start addressing issues. You can target, you can figure out what's going on there. So that's the low-hanging fruit. Then there's a big spectrum of other things. And at the university, we've been working in the ag department on remote sensing aspects, meaning taking images, wavelengths of light that you can't see, so we'll refer to that as infrared, thermal imagery even, and using that in different combinations with computer software to give us some kind of plant status. And so nitrogen deficiency really lends itself well to this. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, more on that. You said that you think it's very time intensive.
Yeah, it is.
Their use
Absolutely.
right now, and you think that in the future research will be done or research is being done to make them less time intensive.
Absolutely. So eventually everybody's going to have one of these things in their back pocket. I mean, they're going to be so ubiquitous that there's going to be a lot of concerns of how are these going to interact with each other. And so a lot of research, not in the ag department, but in the computer science department, is looking at how are these things going to work together, talk to each other, go out and collect data on an automated basis, so that as a producer, you don't have to sit there, twiddle your thumbs, or maybe do something more productive, but wait for a UAV to come back. Instead, making your time more valuable, doing it for you and bringing you back that actionable intelligence, if you will.
What can the cost run on something like this?
That's just all over the place, and without kind of competition in the market for a commercial standpoint, besides just buying the unit, it's already from the low hundreds to tens of thousands. And it really depends on your objective, what you're trying to do, the sensor that you're trying to carry. And so I think of it a lot like we would talk about tractors and implements. I call them flying tractors, because that's really all they are. Is they're a unit that carries something of interest to collect data. And depending on how you use it, you can see the price just go all over the place. And then we start talking about the software processing, the expertise necessary. There's going to be all sorts of pricing structures, leasing options, ownership options, service options, on and on and on. So I would never say a hard figure now, because I think it's going to just be all over the place.